Look, this is early polling, but look, for the GOP nomination, it's JD Vance at 40%. There's no one even close to him. Ron DeSantis back at single digits at 8%. Donald Trump Jr. back at 7%. And I know Kate Baldwin will say, Harry, it's so early. It's too early to look at the polling.
You said it. You don't even need me to say it.
I said it, quoting you. I was channeling you. But keep in mind that early favorites have actually gone on to win the nomination 63% of the time. Those who have run since 1980. And when you're dealing with fields that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, upwards of north of 20, and all of a sudden you're telling me that the early poll leader, who is JD Vance, that those win more than 50% of the time, that is why I say it looks pretty gosh darn good, or pretty good.
Couple things coming out of that. First of all, they're adorable together. Second of all, 1980 is the literal weirdest way to say that year. And third, not a bad Larry David, honestly, from Harry Enton there. But that polling is interesting. I don't know how surprising it is. I mean, he is the VP. So like he's the one that everybody knows. It is maybe a little bit surprising that Trump Jr. isn't doing better considering how little anything seems to matter on the right other than just name recognition and the perception that Donald Trump likes you. Actually, maybe that's the thing that's hurting Don Jr. a little bit. Maybe they don't think that Trump supports him enough. I don't know. But that's JD Vance, who's currently leading in all of these polls. I sort of doubt that once the actual primary happens, if it happens, that he's going to do all that well. I think that he's a really oily guy. I don't think he's a great candidate, but we'll see. In the meantime, though, he could face a challenge from Steve Bannon, of all people, who apparently doesn't think that JD Vance is tough enough and is now talking to people about how he himself is going to run for president. Yes, JD Vance, not tough enough. And so this comes after Donald Trump sort of very begrudgingly was like, I guess it'll be JD Vance, saying in all fairness, he's the vice president. Not exactly a massive vote of confidence. But sources close to Bannon say that he's badmouthed Vance in private, claiming credit for helping nail down his MAGA identity during the Ohio Senate primaries. And one source claimed Bannon had also pushed and propped Vance up for the role of VP, essentially creating his image. Whereas Bannon says, I don't think like a politician. All I do is back President Trump and try to move the populist agenda and the America First agenda. At that point, he'd said the idea of him running was too absurd, but multiple sources are saying he's talking it up behind the scenes. I think the idea of Steve Bannon, like him as the actual candidate in the general election, he is a grotesque figure. I mean that in every way, especially physically. I just don't see how that would possibly work, Brett. But what do you make of these two options?
I don't see him running, but if he does, my Lord. The problem is there's this perception of authenticity problem that folks have. And the war starts to like take shape. The thing is, no one knows JD Vance. No one knows who he is. He and Trump are people who are in their position because of the entertainment industry. Which is a great skill to have. And Vance just doesn't have the baggage of having stood on a debate stage and lost to Donald Trump. I think people that like Trump you see a 40%, they like Trump, they like Vance because he's the vice president, and they haven't really been paying enough attention to see all the ways in which potentially they could perceive JD Vance to not be 100% in lockstep with Trump. Like there was some military intervention issues that Vance surfaced in some unearthed leaked tapes. But other than that, like DeSantis really represents the opposite of Trump in all ways, and he's a loser is the problem. And then with Bannon, it's like you have your fear. Like, am I giving power to my worst fears by them being my worst fears? One of my most terrifying images, if not worst fears, is Bannon doing well? He's in charge of finding ways to say things that appeal to this particular subset of the Republican Party. He's an expert at it. He's probably the one who, along with Tucker Carlson, best understands this like populist grunt that they have. And so I don't know if he has what it takes, but generally I'm with Kate Baldwin, not only because she's like my turbo crush, but also because it is super duper early. They're essentially asking, whose name do you know and not hate?
Yeah. That's generally what this stands for. And that says that doesn't mean that he won't be the person. Like you have to start going over other ones in your mind, but there are other ones. It could be Brian Kemp or something. Like there are a lot of governors. They've got a number of them. And the thing is, like, like people are like, well, I guess he's the most MAGA or whatever, but like or that Steve Bannon is, maybe he's fundamentally more MAGA. But like, remember, Trump has survived, for better or worse, and it's the latter, he's survived. But a lot of people running like him have not won. Even in red states, they've lost, because I don't think that identity is actually popular amongst independents. I just don't think it is. And so running on that same thing, I don't know that that works on a national level for anyone other than Donald Trump. Perhaps we'll see, perhaps in the form of Tucker Carlson or JD Vance or Steve Bannon or whatever, but I don't think that it's a lock that just the most MAGA person naturally inherits all of Trump's vote, and that actually forms a bigger, actually winning majority coalition.
Yeah, anyway. I see Steve Bannon looking at JD Vance, tying him to Peter Thiel and Palantir, depending on how that escalates, and throwing him on a railroad track somewhere and seeing if something runs him over.
Yeah, maybe metaphorically.